The learning outcome of this module is to understand how to successfully work with people from other cultures. Let's get started.
We're going to discuss the action steps about successfully working with individuals from other cultures. The first thing is to understand cultural effectiveness is a skill. Interacting with people from different cultures is an everyday occurrence, essentially, in today's interconnected world. That means that being able to work effectively interculturally is very important to your success, no matter what work you do or where you work. We also know that one of the main factors related to manager performance or leader performance working abroad is the ability of that person's ability to adapt to a new culture. It's rare to be born culturally savvy, unless you're a third culture person, but those types of individuals are in the vast minority. For most people, cross-cultural effectiveness is a skill that's honed and developed throughout their lives and their careers. So to be cross-culturally effective, you have to understand your view of the world. You have to have an open mind towards other cultures. You have to know about the practices of other cultures, and then you have to possess skills in relating to people from other cultures. The next step is to understand your preconceptions. Your view of the world is defined by your unique belief system. Research has shown that judgments of others can happen in milliseconds. You just by looking at the way someone is dressed, or by hearing the way they talk, or what sort of facial hair they have, these kinds of things, you make a split-second judgment about who they are and where they come from. To navigate across cultures, you have to understand your judgments and preconceptions. So you might want to write down a list of your key life experiences that have shaped you and contributed to the person that you are today. Write down things like, what's your national origin? What is your heritage? What experience did you have in your childhood that had taught you how to view others? Did you have any negative experiences in your past that shaped the way you see individuals from other cultures? Where have you lived? Where have you traveled? What are your religious beliefs? What are your beliefs regarding appropriate and inappropriate behaviors, both professionally and privately, or publicly and privately? And what are your stereotypes? The next step is to keep an open mind. To adopt an open mind, do everything you can to suspend your judgment of other people from other cultures. As soon as you judge someone, you limit or remove your ability to understand the reasons, the cultural context that you're in. Think of things that, try using words or try practicing skills such as curiosity, inquisitiveness, flexibility, respect, tolerance, trust, patience. For example, if you're working with someone from another culture, you might show openness by being flexible regarding how a task is completed. And instead of thinking, wow, that was weird, you might think, wow, interesting, I wonder why she did that. You can see the difference between your mindset about how that task got done, and it changes your openness to the situation. You should really challenge yourself to be open-minded in other ways of doing things. Ask yourself things like, given how I'm approaching this situation, am I really being open-minded, or am I putting greater weight on my own expectation and experiences? Don't go with your gut response on that. Take a step back and ask yourself, would a person from the culture that I'm in, or the culture I'm working with, what would they do in this situation? Cultural open-mindedness is a skill that you can develop by practicing. We know this. And so by asking questions like that, you are actively practicing and building the cross-cultural effective muscle for yourself professionally. Your ultimate goal is to be able to respect others at all times while still being able to hold your own unique view of the world, because your cultural values are just as important as everyone else's. The next step is to learn about other cultures. Actively take time to learn about them, because when you're interacting with people from other cultures, you really need to make it a point to learn what's expected of you. So you should be proactive and do your homework. You should read books explaining, cultural practices and historical ratings. Even reading travel books can be helpful, because many times they have sections on cultural norms and what to expect. Being perceptive is essential when you're working with people of different backgrounds or cultures. when you're in an unfamiliar situation, you could ask yourself, what would an anthropologist do? You observe and question. Some questions to ask would be like, what behaviors am I seeing here that I'm not used to seeing? Or how do people do things here? If you're unsure, you just can't quite figure it out, it's always better to ask than assume you know what's going on and then make a mistake or do something wrong. When you're in a new culture, you should really observe what others are doing and try to mirror them. For example, if you are in a culture where men and women kiss as they greet, make sure you've seen this done a few times and you understand what's going on before you engage in it, because you could find yourself in a very uncomfortable situation there. Research what's acceptable and appropriate in the culture. Hand gestures, particular words, touching, where you sit at a table, who enters a building first. All of these things are slightly different or can be powerful indicators with the people that you're working with in different cultures. Next, note universal skills across cultures. Universal skills that support cultural competence or cultural effectiveness are empathy. You should be able to put yourself in the other person's shoes. Information gathering, you should be able to learn what's appropriate and what's inappropriate in a cultural context. Social adaptability, you should practice being able to go with the flow in uncertain situations and weather your feelings of awkwardness and uncomfortability. You should be able to practice stress management, or you should really work on stress management, because being in a new environment or working in a new culture has all kinds of unique stressors that we don't normally have in our lives. And another universal skill is a listening skill, because if you can observe and listen, you're more likely to understand how to be effective. When in a culture that's new to you, it's perfectly normal to engage in cultural flubs or doing the completely wrong thing. Humor often helps. If you find yourself sort of making mistakes or you've just done something inappropriate, own up to it. And many times your colleagues that you're working with will have a good laugh with you, but then of course make sure to try not to do it again. But the ultimate thing is to be willing to go into those situations, observe, and continue to adapt and have that open mind.
We hope you found this module on cross-cultural effectiveness useful. Remember, there's a complete transcript of this video below, and there are downloadable takeaways that you can use offline. Also, take a moment to leave us a comment about how you are operating more efficiently within cultural situations, and leave us a comment about how we can make this section better. Thank you.